Well, it's good to be back with you as we are continuing on in Bible study today. Today we are on day 5 of our 24-day journey through the Gospel of Mark. My name is Kevin Young. It's good to be here live with you. All of this brought to you by Christ Table. If you'd like to know more about Christ Table, you can visit the URL that is right up there in the corner of the screen, www.christstable.today. I would encourage you to sign up for the email list there so that you will know everything that is happening around here at Christ Table. If you'd like to know more about this study in particular, though, would encourage you to visit right there, go.christstable.today/journey. This 24-day journey has a website right there where you can download extra resources for this study. There's a guide that tells you each and every day of the study, as well as the verses that are attached to that day for the readings. And then there's also a PDF study guide there that walks through each and every day, some questions, as well as the Lectio Divina contemplative framework that we're using for this. You can get that there for free. No strings attached, no email required, none of that. But if you would like to help support Christ Table, you can get a printed copy of this study. You can have a PDF for free. It's exactly the same. But if you want a printed version of that, as well as extra study resources, there is information there on how you can do that. All you need to do is just click the button that says get the box, because we will send the box to you filled with a whole bunch of resources, goodies. There's actually a candy bar in there as well, which we have a few extra boxes that are built. And if those boxes don't go out, then my kids have already claimed those candy bars. They don't need those candy bars, so feel free to go ahead and get the boxes. Now, I said that we are working through this study through Lectio Divina, which is a divine reading process where instead of allowing ourselves to kind of try and dissect the text, we're trying to allow the text to dissect us. It's a contemplative practice, which for some people the word contemplative is kind of off-putting, but the foundation of that is contemplate. And so rather than just kind of using the mind and the logic and the reason and the rational side of ourselves, what we're trying to do is actually allow ourselves to just simply contemplate with our heart what is being spoken to us in this very moment, in this very season from the text. And there is a process, a 5-step process of doing that. If you'd like to know more about each of those 5 steps on how to do this contemplative study practice, then the URL right there at the bottom of the screen, go.christstable.today/journey, is where you can download that study guide that includes that. Or you can just do an easy, quick Google of Lectio Divina, and that will give you all of the resources and information that you need in order to utilize that. So today we come to Mark chapter 4, and I've said each and every time we've done this study, this is a very different way of doing a Bible study. I have never done one of these like this before at Christ Table. And so instead of just taking simply a passage and diving into it and trying to figure out all the nuances and the historical backgrounds and the foundational Greek or foundational Hebrew behind these words, what I'm doing when I come to this is I'm just saying is I went through the contemplative Lectio Divina practice on this passage. These are the things that stood out to me, the phrases that caught my eye, the things that were of interest to me that gave me pause. You might have a completely different list, and that's okay. In fact, that might actually be preferable, that yours are different than mine. And I would love to hear what yours are in the comments, in the chat, through direct message. Let me know. And for those who have done that, I've appreciated that a lot. Now, this passage today, Mark chapter 4, has 4 different parables in it. Parables are stories that Jesus told. And here, as you read through Mark, you're going to get a lot of insight as to the why Jesus told parables a lot. And it can be a little confusing and a little disconcerting as to why Jesus utilized parables in this way. But it's important for us, for my Kentucky ancestral roots are coming through there. As much as I try to erase the Midwest accent, it is difficult. Actually, I don't try to erase the Midwest accent. I try to limit the hill country, Appalachia. Anyway, just keep moving forward. See what it's there for. Dang, my grandfather used to say. Anyway, okay, here we go. I'm completely off the rails now, and I see that Mom's already logged on. Is probably laughing her backside off at me. Yeah. So what? The parables are there for a reason, not just as important stories, but also the parables give us great insight into morality and ethics and force us to ask a lot of questions of ourselves and how we interact in the broader world, not just in the spiritual world as well. So in this passage, we see Jesus saying that the parables do have an intended meaning behind them. Here in Mark, we're revealed that information about the parables. But also, these parables are multi-layered. You can read the story of the prodigal son multiple times and get multiple different things out of it, in addition to the primary thing that Jesus wanted us to get out of that. Same with the Good Samaritan. You can look at it from multiple different angles and get lots of different things out of the layers of that parable as well, in addition to the primary thing that Jesus wanted us to get out of them. So I think whenever we come to parables, that's an important thing to remember is, yes, it seems to be that Jesus had a particular reason for telling each and every one of the parables. And sometimes we're given the reason as to why Jesus told that. Other times we're not, but even when we are, and even knowing that there was a primary truth that Jesus was trying to communicate, it does not mean that there are not multiple things that Jesus was trying to communicate and teach these parables. Okay, that being said, 4 parables in this section. The first one is one that will be familiar to many people, if not everyone, as the parable of the seed and the sower. Now, verse 10, Jesus tells this parable first, and then when we get to verse 10, we're going to see kind of the truth of what I said here. Later, when Jesus was alone with the 12 disciples and with the others who were gathered around, they asked him what the parables meant. And so Jesus tells these parables intending, I think, for the people around him to understand the meaning of them, especially those who were closest to him, the 12 disciples. And at some point, they get up the nerve later to say, yeah, Jesus, what do these parables mean? And as I was reading that and contemplating it, it actually gave me peace, because there have been many times whenever I have read not just the parables of Jesus, but the words of Jesus in other places. The Sermon on the Mount is fairly easy to understand, but has some difficult parts. John 3:16, fairly easy to understand, but begins to get a little bit deeper whenever you read it. The parables on the surface are kind of easy to understand a lot of times what's going on here, but whenever you read deeper into Jesus, and especially whenever you read deeper into the Bible, me, got a doctorate in this stuff, there are things that I come up and come against that I'm like, what the heck is going on here? I have no idea. And so in that moment, I go to people who I trust their biblical exegesis, and then oftentimes I'll go to people who are kind of opposite of the people who I trust their biblical exegesis, because I want to kind of read broadly to understand broadly. I want to see both sides. I want to see people come at it from different angles and different perspectives. Not my same ethnicity, not my same gender. I want to hear different voices speak into interpretation of these texts. And sometimes folks aren't in agreement. Some of the brightest and sharpest and wisest minds come at some of these passages, and they may believe that they have the correct answer on this and that everybody else is wrong and that it's clear. But there are a lot of other people who are just as smart, just as wise, and just as spiritually mature who are standing on the opposite side of that and believe that it's just as clear. And those two opinions couldn't be further apart. They asked him what the parables meant. And so whenever I read this, I thought, if little me has difficulty sometimes understanding Jesus, understanding these stories, trying to understand these Bible passages as I read them, I'm in good company. You're in good company. I mean, these 12 disciples sat, spoke, ate, slept, prayed, talked on the road, face to face with Jesus, God in the flesh. And they're later on in the day saying, yeah, Jesus, we don't necessarily get it. It's okay if you don't. It's okay if I don't sometimes get it either. The funny thing is if you read the text, and I hope that you'll read the text today, Jesus essentially eye rolls them. Which totally feels like a non-Jesus kind of answer for somebody to be like, yeah, Jesus, we don't completely understand exactly what's going on here and the things that you're talking and that you're teaching about. And Jesus essentially is like, so while there may be good company and understanding that we don't fully understand all of the things that are said, it may well be that Jesus is also standing there saying, really, Kevin, yeah, you do better. you can do better here. And so, it's kind of one of those moments as I'm contemplating this text and going through this contemplative reading where it was like a high moment for me, and then it was like the roller coaster of a low moment for me. And I was like, you know what? Sometimes the best that you can do, you still sometimes can't win. So continue on through these, and I spoke about my grandparents in Appalachia and the roots of where I am, and many of Jesus' parables and illustrations came from farming and came from the land and came from seeds and sowing, and Jesus is in the midst of speaking about the kingdom of God and comparing it to a farmer and seed again in one of these other parables, and at harvest time, and the very end, the last of this parable that's in our reading for today hit me. As soon as the grain is ready, verse 29 says, the farmer comes and harvests it with a sickle, for the harvest time has come. And there are many theological implications behind this, but again, just kind of contemplating how these texts resonated with me. For me, as I was thinking about this, I thought, it was only the farmer who truly understood whether or not the grain was ready. There may have been other people around who said, I feel it's ready, that grain is ready, but the farmer was the one who was paying attention. It was the farmer's field. And there were moments when that grain wasn't ready for what it was called to do, and that's to bear grain, to produce. And it gave me peace as I was thinking about moments in my life, and this moment in my life as well, where you may feel as though you should be ready, but you just know you're not for whatever it is that's next. You may think that so much time has passed, so much energy has put into preparing you. This may be spiritual, this may be professional, this may be relational, this may be emotional, but many of us hold ourselves hostage by the expectations of others. And oftentimes, many of us hold ourselves hostage by unreasonable expectations on ourselves. And we're just not ready. It's not a bad thing. Patience. Patience is one of the fruits of the Spirit, Galatians 5:22 says. And this verse gave me peace. That we are works always in progress. And when the time is right for the next season or the next stage or whatever it is that is there, then the harvest will come, the farmer will come and cut us down. Sometimes you can take a metaphor way too far. Sometimes you can take a parable way too far, right? Okay, so there's the second thing. So we keep on reading. There are a few more parables here. And then the final parable that kind of struck me has this kind of end to it. And I love this because I think this is the first time that Mark actually kind of breaks the fourth wall and gives us like a first person omniscient perspective of what's going on. It kind of pulls out of the story and it's like, hey, I've told you several stories here. Jesus used many similar stories and illustrations to teach people as much as they could understand. I giggle at the framing of that, as much as they could understand. Yeah, that's me too. In fact, in his public ministry, he never taught without using parables, but afterward, when he was alone with his disciples, he explained everything to them. And this one kind of conflicted me because it's like, okay, Jesus, you're out here telling stories that sometimes are hard to understand, but yay, rah, rah, good job, fist bump for giving the explanation to your disciples later as to what the meaning of those parables were. But then it hit me, there were a number of people who walked away, a multitude, the greatest majority number of people who walked away having no idea whatsoever what it was that these stories were supposed to mean. And if you read in Mark, that is intentional. That Jesus hid some things from some people and revealed some things to other people. And that's difficult on the surface for me to comprehend and to wrestle with. Because I want to know everything. I want to understand everything. I want to believe that I am worth and that I am worthy of understanding everything that Jesus has to teach. But it may well be I'm not ready, or I'm not the one who the story is intended to be directed towards. There are going to be moments where you and I just don't understand, where the story doesn't make sense. The story of our spiritual journey, the story of our life, the roller coaster of the ups and the downs just don't make sense. But I have to believe, at least this is what I want to believe, that at the end of the journey, that at some point, Jesus reveals behind the scenes the meaning behind all of these events. And as I contemplated this line in this passage, that was kind of my hope as well. That for me, the things that I don't understand in the story of my life, that at one point, someday down the road, even if it's in the hereafter on the other side, that the things that just didn't make sense in the moment, the meaning will be revealed. And that gives me hope. And I hope that it gives you hope as well. I also hope that you will continue on in this journey, that you will spend some time reading through this text, doing a contemplative reading of it. Again, if you want to download the study guide, go.christstable.today/journey for parables in this section of today's reading in Mark chapter 4. And there's even a great story after those 4 parables that I haven't even touched on, that I'm not going to touch on. And it's probably the best part of the passage to do this contemplative study reading on. And so I'm leaving the best part for you today. And I hope that you'll take some time to do it. Well, it's been good to be with you today. Looking forward to being back with you tomorrow. And until that time, happy reading.